Hi, I'm Dr. Pam Jarbo.
Hi, I'm Dr. Steve Jarbo.
And this is Life Matters TV.
Today we're going to talk about posture. And so we have a couple props here that we're going to use during our different segments. So this is a spine and this is a bowling ball, and we'll go over these in our segments tonight.
Before we begin giving you the research and book reviews and exercise tips for you to lead a healthier life, we want to give you an analogy of why posture is important. So when Dr. Steve and I first moved to Groton, Massachusetts, we lived in a house that was over 100 years old. And it had a lot of quirks in that the windows would stick and the doors wouldn't close all the way. And there were a lot of gaps there. And the reason is that the foundation had settled incorrectly over time and the building wasn't symmetrical. And there's a phrase we use in our chiropractic office that says, structure dictates function. One definitely leads to the other. So when the structure of our house didn't have its fullest integrity, the windows and the doors couldn't function at their optimal capacity. And the same is true for your body. Your structure is so important because it houses all your organs and it actually holds all the nerves, the 45 miles of nerves that run through your body. And so today we'd like to teach you about how to improve your structure so that you can improve your function and your overall optimal potential in life.
I hope you enjoy our show.
Started first, we want to answer a question from one of our readers and our watchers. And so they asked, Dr. Steve, I have a really hard time sitting up straight. I just feel like I can't do it even though I want to.
All right, so I hear that question a lot in the office, and it's a very common thing for our posture to get off as we grow older. But there's a difference between something being common and something being normal. Abnormal posture is not normal. It's something that's really going to affect your overall health. So I tell the person, I'm like, first of all, I'm glad that they catch that their posture is bad, because that's part of correcting the problem, is know that there is a problem first. And the second thing is I always talk to them how important it is to have correct posture, because having correct posture is going to improve your overall health. When we have bad posture, so, for example, this is a bowling ball. This is a 10-pound ball. This is about what the average human head weighs. So everybody knows how heavy these things are. It's very heavy. So when our head is in proper position and it's situated over our shoulders, it's easier on our neck, muscles and tendons and bones to handle that amount of weight. Just like it's easy for me to hold this ball in close to me. Now, if I were to hold this ball further and further out, it's harder and harder for me to do. It's causing more strain and pulling on the muscles of my arms and shoulders. So the same thing happens with our head and our neck. As our head moves forward, for every inch forward that our head moves, it adds approximately 30 pounds of strain to the muscles, joints, and tendons in our neck. Now that's a lot, 30 extra pounds on top of what the 10-pound ball already weighs. So when that happens, what it does is it decreases lung capacity by up to 30%. It also has a major effect on our bowel function, believe it or not. Our bowel function is not going to be moving normally when we have this added pressure to our neck. Up here in our upper neck, this is the main important part of our spine. This is our brainstem comes down to this level. So any pressure and pulling on our brainstem here, believe it or not, has a huge impact on our lung capacity and on our bowel function. So when the head moves forward, it has all the other muscles and bones of the spine starting to become more rigid. And so that's the effect of the bad posture. So what I tell people as we're working on getting their spine corrected, so part of it is knowing that your posture is off, working on being more conscious on how you're holding your posture, and then also getting your spine corrected. There's stretching exercises that we'll go over in our next segment, and also the more you get your spine checked. So just like a cardiologist has to check your heart occasionally, having your spine corrected and checked for misalignments. So sometimes the spine gets so rigid and stuck that we can't correct the posture. And that's one of the things that people always say is that I know my posture is off, but I can't. I feel stuck and I can't get out of that bad posture. So oftentimes getting good restorative posture exercises and getting your spine checked for misalignments and having corrections done to the spine allows your body to get back into a bit better posture with more ease. And one of the first things that patients always respond to us within the first month of care is that they feel like it's easier for them to sit up straight, stand up taller, and it's easier for them to breathe. And that's where the 30% lung capacity is coming back, because there's not so much pressure coming down on the top of their lungs and affecting the nerves that are going to control the lungs. So I hope that was some helpful tips, and we'll get on to some other questions in a moment. All right, so now I'm going to talk about having proper posture while you're at your workstation. The first and most important thing is to make sure that you're actually sitting on your tailbone, on your sit bones. Now this is your hip and pelvis down here. This would be your head up here. A lot of people, what happens over time, if you're sitting at your computer for a long, long time, you tend to start slouching down like this, and you're sitting more on your buttocks rather than up on the top of your legs. So you want to make sure that you're sitting on the bones way down behind and on the bottom of your bottom. That helps keep the rest of your spine upright. As you start slouching down like this, the rest of your body comes forward, your head comes forward, and remember, our head weighs anywhere between 10 and 12 pounds, and it starts compressing the heart and lungs and digestive organs in here. So by sitting upright, that's the first step in keeping your body over your hips and keeping it in good, proper posture. The second thing that you want to make sure is that your desk is at proper height. If you need to adjust your chair, you want to have your arms at a 90-degree angle here so that you're like this. If the desk is too high, and I've had a lot of patients come in and say, well, my desk is up too high, or I'm up here like this, that's going to be having their shoulders come up and causing a lot of tension and stress in their neck, creating neck tension and headaches and things like that. So you want to make sure that your arms are down at a 90-degree angle like this at the keyboard. And the really important thing is to make sure that your monitor is at eye level and directly in front of you. A lot of people tell me that their monitor is off to the side and they're twisting like this all day. Well, that doesn't make sense. You want to make sure that the monitor is directly in front of you. You want to keep your body and your head in a neutral position as best as possible. Now, what happens over time is that sometimes the longer you're sitting there, you start to slouch down and your head comes forward and you're looking at the monitor, and it has everything starting to cave in. So what I suggest to people is that you either set a timer on your cell phone or on your computer to go off every half hour. And so every half hour, it's just a ding to check in. Okay, let me make sure that I'm sitting in good posture. Get up, do some stretches, and move your body. We need to move and move the joints of our body so that things don't start to get stiffer and stiffer. So that every half hour check-in is going to be a reminder for you, because if you don't do something like that, next thing you know, 4 hours go by and you've been staring at that computer and you're creating all that tension. So you want to make sure, monitor eye level, set that timer so that it can be a reminder to keep your body over your hips so that you don't start to come forward and have all that tension and pulling going forward like that.
Restorative posture exercises are a great way for you to take care of your spine. So I want you to think for a moment about the life of your spine as it goes through your day. A lot of forces are acting onto your spine. If you're sitting, if you're standing, if you're having a really long day that your body wasn't built for, chemical stress, mental, emotional stress, all these things are adding pressure to your spine all day long. And a lot of times I think about it like plaque that's building up on your teeth. Well, at the end of the day, you brush your teeth in order to remove the plaque because you don't want that plaque to wear away at the integrity of your teeth. Well, it's a similar thing to our spine. As the pressure keeps building up on our spine, a lot of times our spine is actually wearing down or degenerating more quickly than it needs to. So you can take care of this pressure by doing something called a restorative posture exercise. And also the thing that I highly recommend is getting your spine checked by a chiropractor. This is one of the things that has been well researched to show that it helps with spinal integrity. But for today, I want to teach you about the restorative posture exercise as a way of brushing your spine at the end of the day to help with some of the forces. The way you can do this, a simple exercise, is to lay on your back. So this is just going to demonstrate what's going to be happening to your spine. But all day long, you're in an upright posture, And gravity is acting on your spine and kind of bearing down on you. And maybe you're sitting at work or carrying heavy things like your purse, or sitting in a crooked posture on the couch. And so at the end of the day, one of the things you can do is just lay on your back. And when you lay on your back, you are going to be allowing all of your muscles that have been pulling forward to go backwards. So for a lot of clients, they have everything that's pulling their shoulders forward because they're always going like this all day long. So when you lay on your back, you're actually opening your body in the opposite direction. So you're bringing all the muscles that were elongated and you're making them shorter as a result of lying on your back. And when you do this, you're actually going to restore the curve here in your neck and allow your head to fall backwards. And you can just sometimes maybe put a little tiny towel underneath your neck in order to support the natural curve of your neck. And you can lay in this position for about 2 to 3 minutes, maybe sometimes longer, just allowing your arms to drop by your side and let your body rest in this position, relaxing the muscles that have been working so hard all day. It's a simple exercise, but it can make a huge difference in your posture. I hope you found that helpful.
So we got another question in. This question is to Dr. Pam, and it says, Dr. Pam, my child has such terrible posture, and I'm always asking her to correct it, but it seems like she can't do it. Is there anything we can do? It's driving me nuts.
We often hear this from parents in our office, that their child's posture or cracking, of their body is, driving them crazy. And so first I want to say a lot of kids today sit in what's called a C curve, where their whole spine looks like a C. And so if I was to use this spine, it would look like this, where they're sitting like this and their head is here. And so their head weighs 10 to 12 pounds. That's how heavy that bowling ball is, which is amazing to me because it doesn't feel like our heads weigh that. So what's happening here is where your heart and your lungs, your stomach, your digestive system is all here, and it's getting crushed when you sit that way. Because kids are sitting more, longer days in school, not as much recess time, sitting in front of computers and playing video games, they tend to sit more in what we call the C curve. And so we adjust children in our office. It's amazingly gentle, very light force. But what happens when you're in a C curve all the time is you create these blockages in your nerve system sometime. And that is what we specialize in, is checking the nerve system to see if there are any of these blockages, because when there is a blockage, you're not getting the true nerve flow out to all of the muscles, organs, and tissues. And so what happens, it's kind of like stepping on a garden hose, so the muscles get weaker and the child is falling more and more forward because the muscles are actually weaker. They call this hypotonicity. And so you're not getting the proper nerve flow. So when we remove those blockages, now the nerves can flow out to that area and the child has more of a capacity to sit up straight. We often hear from parents that their child is naturally having better posture, will also feel more comfortable in their own skin. A lot of times that bad posture happens around middle school because they're actually just feeling uncomfortable in their own skin, but that actually can cause neurological and healthcare problems. It's a very important concern to address. So thanks for your question, and as always, if you have any questions to ask us here at Life Matters, you can write to us at drpamjarbo@gmail.com, and we'll try and get to your question on the air. Thank you very much. Today's book review is called The Egoscue Method. It's written by Pete Egoscue, who is a golfer who developed a method for creating more symmetry and ease in the body, basically in order to increase your performance. So what he looked at was that, let's say you are a golfer or a bowler or a person who is a corporate athlete. I use that term because a lot of us have lives that demand a lot from our bodies. We have to outperform what we did last year or the year before that. And so we always want to seek for the best ways to allow our body to do what our life is demanding or asking of us. So Pete Egoscue looked at Little things like, let's say your right foot is turning out as you're walking. You're actually creating more work for your body when you do that. And especially as a golfer, if you can improve your performance by taking those torques out of your frame, you're actually going to improve your golf game. The same could be used for runners. Anybody who does certain athletic performances would benefit from this book, but really it's a way of looking at the symmetry of a body. So if you look at a building and you looked at the symmetry of the building, and if there was anything off, that would throw the whole building off and the function of it. And it's really similar with your own frame. You want to have as much symmetry and ease in the body so that the body can perform at its highest level no matter what you're doing. Because if you arrive at 3 o'clock and your body's working harder than it needs to, you're not going to be able to put out what you want to put out for your life, your work, your family, whatever it is. And so I recommend this book because it gives you a perspective on creating more ease and symmetry and increasing performance no matter what you're doing in your life. In our office, we try to teach our patients as much as we can about what's happening in their body, because the more you know, the more power you have over your own health and well-being. But before I begin this segment, I just want to make a comment that I think, the spine looks like a dummy. I don't know if you ever watched Ventriloquist Act, but that's the way I feel. So say hello to the people. Anyway, so I want to teach you about spinal curves. A lot of times people are very familiar with the concept of scoliosis. And if a person has scoliosis, you're looking at their spine from behind them. This is their hips, this is their head. And what you're looking at is to see if there is a curvature of the spine, and that is going to affect your organs and your nerve flow throughout your body because it's pulling all of your nerves. But today, what I want to talk is about the curves from the side, because you're meant to have an S curve when you look at your body from the side. Your neck is supposed to come in like this, and then your thoracic spine or your chest cavity comes out like this, and then your lumbar spine goes in like this. For the purpose of this conversation, what I want to do is talk about research that is associated just with this curve, because oftentimes when people come into our office, they don't realize that their spine isn't curved at all. When we look at an x-ray, sometimes their spine is completely straight, which is called military neck, or it's reversed, which is called a reverse cervical curve. What's happening, if you look below here, is that the spinal cord is getting pulled or stretched. And that's very important because your brainstem is right in here, and all these nerves that go out are like a web, and you're pulling on that web, and you're going to alter the function and flow of those nerves. So I want to just talk to you about a little bit of research. Research studies actually show that a decrease in this curve